Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with season 11, episode 21 of our weekly Q&A videos. This is probably the end of the season of Lost Challenge characters. I only say probably because we might do something silly depending on whether or not we get through a sort of tier list discussion because they're happening in parallel. Right. So I'm leaving us room to make it up as we go along and not be lying to you.
Right.
But anyways, today we are going to be looking at Zod Prime. He is the last character that we have not covered, and we're in perfect timing because these characters are seemingly quickly becoming not lost anymore.
Yeah.
At a rate of 1 every 2 weeks. So Zod's passive is Phantom Zone Survivor, and that is for every teammate that is knocked out, General Zod receives a plus 20% bonus to all damage and a 20% bonus to health. And that's a max of 40% bonus, which I guess they say for people who can summon stuff, like Aquaman.
Well, yes and no. All right, so it's interesting. It's a bit ambiguous to me. When it says max of 40% bonus, it comes right after the health, but I think they're implying that it is for both the damage and the
but they're saying it so that you can't farm up by summoning somebody and then getting them knocked out over and over again.
Well,
that's what I was saying.
Even better than that, it doesn't even work the one time.
Yeah.
So I've got video footage now of Aquaman as a teammate summoning the Atlantean hero.
And getting nothing out of it.
Getting 0.
Even though nobody else is knocked out.
Just knocking out Atlantean hero is 0. Worthless.
Anyways, he's got 900 attack, 1,150 health. Was last available before 2017. So more than 7 years at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
So Special 2 is... this is the meat of it, right? The Special 2 is awful. It is single hit, which you can make work against characters that have a low health passive. That would in theory be great, but it has literally zero range.
Yeah.
So if they're even a little bit back, you highlight the spot in front of them and you do some damage to the spot in front of them. And I don't know if maybe something's happening that I'm not noticing because I gotta admit his Special 2 sort of processes and animates too fast. It feels like it's not hitting, but clearly something's happening because you don't get your power back. If you do a Special 2 that misses because the opponent's too far away, nada. Zip, zilch.
You get ripped off. So Special 1 has great range, doesn't do enough damage. And so the times that you can actually get the Special 2 to run are good, but because in order to get that, the 2 gears, Sanity Totem doesn't matter, Master's Death Card does a shove. And so when you tag in, you shove them far enough away that anytime you're trying to do it quickly, you lose it. So what that means is it's really difficult to manage tagging in against anybody with power. Because in order to do a high damage Special 2, you need to get close, opening yourself up to eating a special potentially if they've got power. If the opponent doesn't have power, then it doesn't matter because your Special 2 will still prioritize before their basics. And if you just did a special with Rebirth Raven before tagging in Zod, and you've given her Enchantress Companion Gear like we have, that works too. But sometimes it's hard to time it unblocked, but the Enchantress Companion Gear, the skulls, protect you from their special when they have power. So I guess there's a couple things. I mean, historically, why Zod isn't that much fun, and it's basically like playing without a passive because the amount of bonus you get is relatively small, and needing to get your teammates knocked out for that small amount of bonus is not worth it. So in the old days, that 20% damage bonus used to work with Atlantean Hero. Not only did it work, you could stack it, I think, up to a 300% boost. I mean, it was tedious. But it's one of those things where it's fun to do, not because it's fast, but because it's fun. And, powering them up to 300% damage boost. Yeah, it's silly, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's interesting. So the fact that it's a heal, right?
Oh, that's the other thing, right? So the way it's worded is a 20% bonus to health. That is not a bonus to health. The way it's worded makes you think, oh, he gets more health. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He only gets health back of what he's lost up to a max of 20% for that teammate getting knocked out.
It's interesting because I'm just wondering if that's because there's something in the code, right, where if you think about when you can modify variables, like your current health total is an easy variable to change, but
you know, you can do gear and stuff that changes your max health going into a fight. Yeah. But from the moment the fight starts, there's no abilities, I think, that boost your max health. Is there?
Not after the fight starts.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you do it before the gear starts.
That's what I'm saying. But once you've clicked that start fight button and it's run that number, right? I don't think there's any way of increasing max health.
Attack can increase.
Well, but clearly there's stuff that does damage calculations, right? There's like temporary damage buffs, right? So that's like a number that gets changed in the fight, but the health never does, right?
But you could do that the same way by doing, I mean, effectively, you could do it by just doing a damage taken debuff. So that would be
the same as increasing health?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'd have to do all sorts of math on that. That would be so complicated.
No, but you could.
So you're saying that
if you reduce all damage taken by, all right, so you want to increase it by 20%?
Yeah.
So you got to decrease it by 16.7%.
Yeah, okay.
So if you decrease it, a debuff every time that happened, you could.
Yeah.
But that
would be silly though.
Yeah. So you never get over 100. It's really just that you heal up to 20% of your original health.
Yeah.
I guess a fun piece of trivia is that if people probably already noticed this, is that his animation, his model animation, is the same as Darkseid. Which is kind of funny because there's no relation to me between Zod and Darkseid.
Yeah.
It's basically, I mean, he's effectively as good as somebody who has no passive. To me, I treat him like he's got no passive, and the problem is that his special 2 is
not
good enough to make up for that. He's not fast enough to make up for it on his basics. His special 2 is not good enough. He's one of the weaker characters. I mean, if it was just his special 1, perfectly ranged, but it doesn't do anything extra. So to me, he's like, if you look at him as, well, his special 1 is great. It is. Doesn't do enough damage. And I mean, there's so many other guys who have better special 1s. Like the best example in this team would be Static. All the Batgirls. Because Static stuns every time. And it's ranged. So this, instead of going out with a bang, this season of Lost Challenge characters for a Q&A is going out with a whimper, because I think Zod is pretty weak.
So there we go. Moving on to our tier listing discussion. We've got our first comment coming from Andrew Wabe. It's hard to say. It's Wehbe. So it could be Wabe, right? It could be Wabe. It could be anything. Or it could literally just be Wehbe. Maybe it's a acronym for something. But anyways, Andrew Wabe 7822 says, Injustice 2 Superman, Gaslight Batman, Black Knight The Flash, Rebirth Jessica Cruz, for me, are S tier. As a beginning player, however, I've always found the Flash characters are just so strong due to how their basic attack mechanisms work.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
They're fast. I've always loved the Flash characters. They were my favorite. When I first started, I only had bronze characters. I loved playing with Flash.
They're fun, they're satisfying, and there is something to be said, right? It's always two parts. It's how good the character is, sort of, on paper, and then it's the meeting sort of the real world. And a lot of that real world is like your skills, right? Where the better you are, you're going to be able to take better advantage of people. Yeah. And so the Flash, for whatever their stats are, they make it easy for you to do a good job because they're faster, right? They're a little bit more consistent for swiping and stuff like that. They're more responsive to player behavior. So, unless there's somebody with like a specific combo that can go infinite or something, for almost all players, I think the Flash will make you play a little bit better relative to other characters.
I do want to point out, too, that both early game, when you don't have gears like Tentu Totem, and back in the old days before Tentu Totem existed, basics were the most important thing. Yeah. And in a world where that happens, the Flashes were just better.
Yeah, because basics are great with the Flash. Yeah.
So let's see what the list breakdown. Injustice 2 Superman, I don't really have an argument with. Gaslight Batman, to me, is...
We've already talked about a lot of these, which is good at this point.
Rebirth Jessica Cruz. I think the main thing with Rebirth Jessica Cruz is that she's got a really interesting special, too, when she's got the right teammates. And she's got the multiple combo ender hits, like the Arkham Knight does. Mm-hmm. Arkham Knight, the Arkham Knight. There's only the one "the" in there.
Yeah. The Arkham Knight. The, quote, the Arkham Knight, quote,
right,
close quote, the Arkham Knight.
Yeah. So, I don't know if there's anything else to say. I don't feel like Blackest Night, the Flash, he's really close, though. Not because of his passive, being able to reverse damage over time because it just doesn't happen often enough. But I think because his ability for opponents to occasionally just whiff, but not just whiff on basics and miss, but that they get frozen for a moment, so they're totally vulnerable to whatever counterattack you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad. I think I've got some interesting things that I think after seeing all these different comments about it, I've broken down sort of into main categories of what I think S tier, how you qualify for S tier.
Nice. And I know we've probably mentioned this before, but Arkham Knight, the Arkham Knight reminds me a little bit of the Los Angeles Angels, which is when you translate the Spanish into English, it's the Angels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, our next comment.
Well, they were better when they were California Angels then. Because they didn't always used to be Los Angeles Angels. They used to be California Angels.
Yeah?
Yeah. Back in the day. I used to have California Angels baseball cap. I wonder what happened to
that. Anyways, our next question comes from Stoic9 for 5-4. And they say, would you choose Boss Grundy or Bronze Flash? Also, a good S tier character is probably Blackest Night Batman because Block Breaker is very important for online defense and offense. So, we've just been talking about the Flash, why the Flash is so good. And S tier character, so this feels very sort of double relevant a little bit. Between the two, if we're just choosing who you'd have the most fun to play with, it's probably Bronze Flash over Boss Grundy. Yeah. But if you're choosing who makes sense, the problem is that the Flash doesn't provide good support, right? So he's only useful as the main person in. So in like a team with golds, he's always going to be worse. So even if you don't want to, you'd probably end up... Boss Grundy would be a better sort of teammate to have.
Sure, because he could at least act as a meat shield.
Yeah.
So the effectiveness of Bronze Flash without, say, Darkseid Prime.
Yeah.
Because Darkseid Prime would make him... pull him up to maybe like a low-level gold.
So I feel like I would rather play as Bronze Flash, but in some contexts, it just wouldn't make sense, right? Yeah. In the context of the team and the surrounding sort of information on an online multiplayer fight, you kind of have to choose Boss Grundy. Because also, for online multiplayer, you get more points.
Yeah.
You get more points for winning. So it's actually like an efficiency of time thing where Bronze Flash would be weighing down the team in a couple different ways. But I would have way more fun with Bronze Flash for sure.
So Blackest Night Batman, I think definitely Unblockable Chance is pretty good, and having it free for your team is pretty good. It is one of the best Blackest Night abilities, which is why whenever we do a Blackest Night team and we prioritize, Blackest Night Flash is on it and Blackest Night Batman is, along with Hawkgirl. Mm-hmm. However, I would maybe say that yes, he does something that nobody else does, this passive. Yeah. However, I don't think it's enough because of all the times, like the way I notice it is that sometimes there's a daily, what do you call them? The daily challenges or the daily bonus. Mm-hmm. And one of them is to win a fight without blocking.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to do it unintentionally. I don't have to make a specific effort not to block. So that to me, that means that it's an ability that is less likely to be in play because most of the time we, plan or try to at least use our technique to land attacks unblocked.
Yeah.
And facing it when it's on the defensive team, like if we're playing against him, then it just doesn't come into play enough. I mean, I might notice there's a couple times maybe I block and say, I realize, I shouldn't block. It's not that hard of an adjustment to switch over.
Yeah.
But it's helpful. I do agree it's helpful on defense, mainly because the AI gets to follow through on basic combos, even when you block it. So you get as many unblockable chances as there are hits in that combo, as opposed to you, where it's after the first, or I guess in the case of some of the flashes, the second hit that you get a much lower chance of unblockable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to note, totally unrelated to what you said, Hawkgirl is one of the characters. So in English, right, when you're a comfortable speaker, you always swallow syllables and vowel sounds and stuff like that. Like as you speak faster, you're not pronouncing them like the dictionary way you're supposed to pronounce them, right? Like Batman, you don't say Batman. You're saying something closer to almost like Batman, like B-A-M-A-N.
Batman.
Right? And Hawkgirl is one of those examples that you hit it really hard when you said it, and I hit it hard sometimes too, because it feels the most degraded, like, and hard to understand, and kind of like clearly wrong when I say it the way that feels natural or comfortable. Because a lot of times I'm saying like Hawkgirl, and it kind of sounds like I might be saying hawk. It kind of sounds like I might be saying hot. It when I try to say Hawkgirl really fast, it doesn't sound like I'm saying the words right. So, to my own ear, which is funny because I'm the one saying it.
The reason why I do it like that, I've taught myself to, because so when I'm doing footage of fights, there's a default sort of naming convention on the app that I use. Yeah. And it gives you the date and the time. Yeah. And then I have to add the details to the name. Yeah. So whenever I do it, because it's so much faster to do it with the microphone and have Google recognize it.
Oh, so you're reading it out. You're doing voice text. You're saying Hawkgirl.
Right,
because otherwise it'll say hot girl.
It does. Yeah. It says hot girl.
Yeah. It does. Well, because I almost feel like I'm saying hot girl. If I go like...
Hot. It says hot girl. I think that's not right.
Red Son, Green Lantern, hot girl. It sounds like I'm saying hot girl as well. And I don't... I'm not saying she's not a hot girl, but that's not how... I'm not trying to designate her hot or not hot. I'm not trying to communicate anything about her attractiveness. Because I don't do that for any of the characters. Yeah, so it was just funny. I noticed that you did it, and I know I did it too, and I thought it was worth pointing out. We can talk a little bit about linguistics because we spent so much of these past couple of weeks just only talking about Injustice. I feel like we've earned it as a treat. Yeah. Our next one comes from Cameron1072, friend of the show. It's a name we recognize. They say, strongly agree with your points about Luchador Bane. He's, of course, a fantastic specialist, but for me, Prime Hawkgirl is the one that deserves the most credit for how good the Luchador Bane team is. It's always a little surprising to me whenever I see tier lists that rank Bane higher than Hawkgirl. Yeah. Hawkgirl.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, for the longest time, it's really only recently that Hawkgirl
has been getting her flowers.
Has been getting, the recognition.
I feel like we've talked about that almost every week of this tier list because we keep coming back to it. If that gives you any sense of almost the top of our tier list. Yeah. Tippy top.
So I will admit, so Bane has a great special one. Yeah. Anytime somebody has a special one that you can leverage to do a huge amount of damage, do a huge amount of splash damage, is so much better than a really good special 2. Yeah. Because special 2
just takes longer.
It does.
The tempo, the pacing. If something goes wrong and you lose it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or your gear load. So it's always better to have a great special one. The problem really with Luchador Bane is the proliferation of revives and how many you'll see in online play. Mm. It's great. It bypasses, invulnerabilities on Astro Harness. You can have the potential for huge amount of splash damage. It is absolutely great. The problem really is the number of times that you actually have to tag Luchador Bane out. And I think it hit the nail right on the head, Cameron, that Hawkgirl is so good on so many different teams, and she is such a great way to take advantage of Tantu Totem. Mm-hmm. Nobody else does what she does.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So there we go. And coming up on our final comments now, Nathan Hayward 7162 says, for me, the main idea of S tier is that the character can be good on any team. Not that they have good damage or specials, but that you will almost always make a team better with one of the S tier characters on it. I was saying Regime, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Batman Who Laughs are S tier since 50% more power gen, faster switch speed, and a staggering bleed on tag-in, unless it's a tag-in stun character, are all immensely beneficial in all game modes. I would add that Batgirl Prime should be in the S tier as well, as a free bar of power, unless Rebirth Raven is involved, is always good. As for my experience with the game, I've been playing for 10 years over several different accounts. On my newest account, I have over 100 characters, and I'm only missing the paywalled ones and a Metal Black Adam. For gears, I have all 4-star gears and below, except for Tantu and Astro, but I have played with all of them on the past accounts. For the people that say S tier is best damage or best with teammates on offense, I would put Lucy Bane, Arkham Knight Deadshot, and Flashpoint Deathstroke. Lucy Bane has a special 1 nuke, Arkham Knight Deadshot for his special 1 or special 2 nuke, and Flashpoint Deathstroke with his special assist from other Flashpoint teammates on all specials with 5 times damage cost of Flashpoint Batman. Cuz, not cost. Right. Sometimes I try to edit because there's spelling issues every once in a while in longer comments, which are understandable and that I make as well. So I try to edit on the behalf of making the commenter articulate in the way that I'm sure they meant to be. And then sometimes I do that and I mess up and I make them make less sense. And so that's my fault. TLDR, my S tier is the best and most versatile supports for an offensive multiplayer team. Regime Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Batman Who Laughs, and Batgirl Prime. For the best on offense as a damage dealer in a full team, I would say S tier is Lucy Bane, Arkham Knight Deadshot, and Flashpoint Deathstroke. So I like this. It's to me, this makes sense as a methodology, right?
Well, it's getting to where we're actually wanting to break stuff down.
Which is, you want to subdivide S tier almost into categories of S tier in what sense?
Yeah. I wish I had something more articulate to say about Arkham Knight Deadshot. I don't have that same impression of Arkham Deadshot. I can't remember if that's the Deadshot with the splash on the gunshots. And it might be. But I don't remember thinking that Arkham Knight Deadshot was really particularly good. There just isn't enough splash damage to justify. There's a few times I think I leaned into it. And I'm sure it's fine. There's lots of A tier characters. Maybe that we don't include an S tier, but I feel like S tier is standouts. Everybody needs to have this on their roster if they're going to go with a certain way with their teams, and I don't see that. It's a good argument for Regime Green Lantern. The problem with Regime Green Lantern, I think, is because he's silver, you run into trouble with getting enough battle points.
Yeah.
But definitely, I mean, Regime Green Lantern does better. It on paper, I think Animated Harley Quinn is supposed to do a decent amount of power gen boost, but it looks like it just does a lot less, even though the numbers I think are close. I think Animated Harley Quinn is 20% boost, and Regime Green Lantern is what, 25? I can't remember now. I probably should have looked this up and made some notes. But it's not. In practical terms, when you play it, it feels like Green Lantern does a bigger boost than that.
Yeah. So there we go. And our last comment before we sort of talk about our own feelings and try to sum stuff up is from Levi Jaroslaw 9571. As always, for all of these comments, if I've pronounced your name wrong and you would have something new to say and I'm going to be reading your name again and you would like to correct me on the pronunciation, I'd be happy to try to learn. Or if you just want me to try to fix my pronunciation next time, and that's the entirety of your comment, I'm also okay with that. They say, and they've said something, I think, which is AKBW, which I think is Arkham Knight Batwoman from context.
Batgirl.
Right? Yeah. Well, Batgirl is her name, but if it's Batman, Batwoman seems fair. Batgirl seems almost a little infantilizing.
Is there another Batwoman? Is there a
There's
separate?
not in this not
in the game. No, not in the game. But I'm saying in the DC universe,
anyways,
is there Batwoman?
Is there Batkid? Is there Batboy?
Yeah, there was Batmite.
Batmite. Yeah. But Batgirl is frequently an adult, right? So I feel like Batwoman is fair.
Batwoman's a separate character.
Batwoman's a separate character?
Yeah.
Just less popular?
Yeah. I mean, there's even a TV show
called Batwoman?
There's Batwoman, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. But anyways, so I assume this is Arkham Knight Batgirl, and they've just used BW because it's BM Batman, BW Batwoman.
Right.
So
right.
They say Arkham Knight Batwoman is the best character in the game, in my opinion. Ignoring how quickly a battle takes or anything like that, the end goal is to win, and with Arkham Knight Batwoman, you're practically unbeatable. The swings she can cause throughout a fight are literally unmatched by anyone else in the game.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to argue that she is an S tier.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I were to break down the categories, I think there's sort of four main categories.
So now this is our thoughts on the tier list and everything everybody said, and we're going to talk about who we believe belongs in S tier, but this is the more interesting thing to us, which is our categorization and our sort of methodology, like how we think about it and what our criteria are for them being in S tier.
I think there's sort of two categories that are very much related to each other. You can group them together. The one commonality is that they're good on any team. But good on any team can mean either that they have a huge amount of damage output, doesn't matter who else is with them.
Yeah, that basically they carry any team that they're on.
Right.
Just themselves.
Or that they make any team better.
Yeah.
And so, to me, good on any team, and because their damage output is so good, would be somebody, or their versatility, they just do lots of stuff, is Injustice 2 Superman, with all those promotion boosts.
Yeah.
Arkham Knight Batman. Batman Ninja Catwoman, because when you tag her in and you trigger a passive, holy moly, as outdated as a basic damage team is, it's wild just how good she is.
Yeah.
And then in a similar vein, Flashpoint Batman, where you don't even need to tag him in, he just sits there and it never runs out.
Yeah.
So even though he doesn't do as much damage as Batman Ninja Catwoman, the fact that he can do it indefinitely makes him, to me, like S tier.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as characters that improve a team or just make any team better, I think Rebirth Raven for sure.
Yep.
I think Batgirl Prime. And so the funny thing to me is that I know Hawkgirl is S tier. I don't know if I stick her here though as the category, because how do you judge her? She needs Tantu Totem or a tag and teammate passive to benefit. Otherwise,
so she improves most teams, but not every team.
Right. So that's where I think she fits, but she improves it so much in a way that nobody else can.
Yeah.
Absolutely 100% S tier.
Yeah.
There's nobody comparable. You would be... she's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got those that are...
So this is category 2.
That was category 1 and 2, I guess.
Well, okay. Category 1 is good on any team, and then there's subcategories.
Right.
1A is good on any team because they pump out so much damage.
Right.
And that basically just means that they are good by themselves in that case, right? The team is kind of unimportant. And then 1B is that they improve any team that they're on. And that kind of comes with the caveat of like you want somebody who's really good,
right,
theoretically by themselves or in combination. So, you know, your best team is going to have like somebody from category 1A that pumps out a massive amount of damage, and probably somebody from category 1B too, which is that they improve any team that they're on.
1B also.
Yeah.
I love that kind of ambiguity of English.
Now category 2 or criteria 2, the second sort of bucket.
To me, that category is they can be amazing on the right team.
Yeah. And
they offer something, but they need the right teammates to do it, but they offer something just wild. Like New 52 Wonder Woman with Justice League teammates. Holy moly. The ability to leverage Tantu Totem and Master's Death Card is unmatched. It is so good that it's one of those things where, and I know this is not really a way to judge it, but I've let myself be influenced a lot by the fact that anytime I play with a team a lot, and then when I have to stop playing with them, it changes how I feel about the team. That's what she is. She changes. Like every time I play an extended period of time with the Justice League team with her, I feel awful when I have to start playing with another team.
That's like how I felt about swapping to a mechanical keyboard when I got a secondhand one for my friend.
Yeah.
When you have to go from a mechanical keyboard to a bad keyboard, it's genuinely, it feels less comfortable.
Those
don't
chiclets are awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The quality of life experience of going from a New 52 Wonder Woman Justice League team to not is noticeable.
Yeah.
And your life gets a little bit worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Arkham Knight Batgirl. I think she fits here on an Arkham team. She leverages, not only does she have great abilities herself, right, with her special one.
Yeah.
Like all the Batgirls have. She is able to leverage, not only make her Arkham teammates better by saving them at least once so they get another kick at the can by coming back after they should be knocked out. Mm-hmm. Her saving them, each action of saving her teammates, stuns the opponent automatically. And it really is a huge opportunity to totally massacre and nuke the other team.
Mm-hmm.
So not only does she make her teammates better, she does this thing when she rescues her teammate that is just unmatched, huge damage output, absolutely brilliant. And it just happens that her ability makes her team defensively so much better too.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be the funny one that I think I've gotten some pushback for, but I'm hoping that the more I say it, the more people will agree with me. I think Flashpoint Deathstroke is S tier here. He is amazing and better than Flashpoint Batman when he's on a team with Flashpoint Batman.
Yeah. So Flashpoint Batman is the solo S tier, and this guy is the amazing on the right team.
Is the better S tier on the right team. So I would be happy to have Flashpoint Batman take up a spot, even if I didn't tag him in. If I was forced to play 2 players, like 2 against 3, Flashpoint Deathstroke is a higher
Yeah.
S tier to me than Flashpoint Batman.
He loses points for breadth of sort of ability, but he gains a huge amount of points for just how much better he is on the right team.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Another person I put here in the Amazing on the Right team is Jessica Cruz, Rebirth. So when she's got the right teammates to extend her special 2 for more hits,
Yeah.
nobody else does as many hits in their special 2 and has a special 2 that takes as much in-game time
Yeah.
that she can extend across 2 invulnerabilities for Astro Harness.
And her combo ender too, right?
Yeah, it's. I think she's great.
Yeah.
But she requires the right teammates.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the last one that sneaks in just a little bit for me is Suicide Squad Harley Quinn with Suicide Squad Joker. And I can't separate the two and say which one's which, because when
The Suicide Squad Joker is basically just boosting her special too.
he is doing her special 2. Like he actually is in the animation that comes in.
Yeah, but he's just a special 2 machine basically for all of his gear and everything.
And that by itself wouldn't be enough. But what's wild about it is that when he comes in for a special 2, it crits independent of whether the opponent has anti-crit passive. It does full damage, including crit, regardless of whether the opponent's blocking or not.
Mm-hmm. There's just nothing they can do about it.
And so the hardest thing is, and why they're not really like right up there easily, is because of how much you need to get the timing just right.
Yeah.
And you lose a tiny bit, because it's one hit, so that you run into the same problem with if the opponent has a revive.
Yeah.
You can get around it easy. You can manage around it. But to me, there is a huge advantage to being able to inflict crit unblockable, basically. I mean, they can show an animation of being blocked, but because the amount of damage you do is actually the same as if they didn't block at all. Mm-hmm. So being able to do crit unblockable damage against any opponent, even if it's a Red Sun Green Lantern team, that advantage outweighs any sort of any disadvantage you get from needing to tag out against somebody who's revived.
Mm-hmm. And so that's your second category.
Right, so we got good on any team with the 2 subcategories, amazing on the right team as a second category.
And your third category, which is your smallest category, and I think the one that most people would sort of cut first.
Right. But I don't think I can neglect them just because I've seen how good they are.
Yeah.
So this category is basically they do something that's really useful, better than anybody else. It's not something that nobody else can do, but they do it so much better than anybody else that it puts them well above A class. Like you said, maybe they're not the top of the S tier class, but they are so absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
That would
be... this is our S tier, right?
Yeah.
We've seen, like, I don't know if it's a dozen, but we've seen a bunch of other people's S tiers, and we've talked about them, right? We agree sometimes, we disagree sometimes. And our list is going to be just like their list, right? Where you will agree with some of our stuff. You probably will not agree with every single list. I would be really surprised if our lists look exactly the same. But this is ours, and you can't stop us, so these guys may get on the list for us.
So that's Red Lantern Hal Jordan, and for the longest time, I really didn't like him. I wouldn't have even put him at A tier, mainly because he used to be so S before they nerfed him.
Yeah. Because
the amount of damage he did on a special 2, because of the way you could do infinite supers when the in-game time for doing a super didn't count down fast enough that you would lose out on your invulnerabilities. Like, it was amazing, like, what you could do. And when his power came back right away. But I can't get over the fact that there's not anybody else that you can use as effectively as a gear stripper. You bring him in, you give him the right gears. He will strip the gears off anybody in a couple special ones. He can do it multiple times in the fight. He's got more than enough health to manage it. And you don't need to wait. The amount of time that he saves and the way he can change the direction of fights. Red Thunder. So definitely upper A. And the other one that nobody else has listed or mentioned that I want to give the credit to is Arkham Knight Catwoman. She does the most damage over time on Special 2, while also taking the least amount of reduced or dealing the least amount of reduced damage for having the secondary effect on her special 2. Yeah. So she will do 75% of what you expect your special 2 to do instead of 100% compared to somebody who doesn't have a secondary effect on their special 2.
Yeah.
And it does enough damage so that even when you're facing a Blackest Night Flash team, that extra damage is enough that I'm not actually afraid of boosting the Blackest Night Flash team and giving them a bunch of health and power, because I think a lot of times if I time it right, I can still knock them right out of the fight.
Nice. Yeah. There we go. And just in time for the end of our season, we got through our tier list. Thank you to everybody who commented. It was nice doing a little bit of a deeper dive into Injustice stuff for these couple weeks, since it's unlike our usual balance of sort of just talking about whatever. Right. So hopefully we'd love to hear your thoughts and follow-ups. We might not necessarily respond in video form to them with any urgency, because we've just spent a long time kind of having a back and forth about tier listing, but we might.
And I guess just to point out too, we're going to be in Montreal in the weekend, so we're probably going to be taking at least a 1 week hiatus from our Q&A.
That's true.
That'll be a natural break between this season and the next.
Yeah. But to finish up, we'd like to give a huge thank you to our lovely patrons on Patreon. That is Michael Devries, Irvin Ruiz, Hoshi127, Nora Klimek, and Paolo-Cesar-Pablo-Juan, supporting us on the credited level, as well as 5x5 supporting us on the gratitude level. Just a second thank you here to, I mean, we should always be thanking the people who comment and actually give us something to talk about, but extra thank you over the past couple of weeks to everybody. We've had a very engaged back and forth with people over the tier list, and it's been fun and good to do our way.
Yeah.
So that's been great. And
this is, I mean, we were celebrating too the end of the challenge shares. Thank you to the developers actually for making our season 11 even more meaningful, because they're bringing back the lost challenge characters just
Very
as we're wrapping up.
Yeah. Great way to celebrate. And also thank you to everybody who's watched to this point in the video, hung out with us for, more than half an hour, less than 40 minutes.
I don't know why you keep on saying that.
It's fun. If you spent more than half an hour of your time sitting and listening to us, that's cool.
I don't mind that. I'm just saying that I'm just, every time it feels like you're just, there's the number.
Yeah.
Like it's just,
I don't know. It's fun. I'm looking at the time. I've sat here for almost 40 minutes. It's, a not insignificant
it's not bedsore time, but it's definitely like sitting around a long time.
Yeah. It's just cool. Anyways, I appreciate it. So thank you so much for your support in whatever format that looks like.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Komoda.